The most famous giant in history is Goliath, mentioned in the Bible. Goliath of Gath, the champion of the Philistine camp, appears in 1 Samuel 17 verse 4. The Bible states that his height was 6 cubits and a span, which translates to over 9 feet tall by modern measurements. This immense size is hard to comprehend at first, but in simple terms, Goliath was a giant of a man. Imagine him raising his arms above his head. You can envision how imposing and terrifying a figure he must have been. Goliath's colossal size was not his only impressive feature. He wore a bronze helmet on his head and a coat of scale armor weighing 125 pounds. His legs were protected by bronze greaves, and he had a bronze javelin slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 15 pounds. His shield-bearer went ahead of him to provide additional defense. He turned to the Israelite lines and called out, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he can fight and kill me, we will become your subjects, but if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Goliath proposed the strategy of single combat, popular in Eastern civilizations. Representing the Philistine forces, Goliath's sheep. Too young to join the army, David was likely unaware of the conflict between the Israelites and Philistines. His only concern was for his 3 older brothers serving in Saul's army. David's father, Jesse, old and likely unable to make the journey himself, called David and gave him a task. Jesse instructed David to take some roasted grain and 10 loaves of bread to his brothers and quickly bring them to the camp. Additionally, he was to deliver 10 slices of cheese to the unit commander and check on his brothers. David set out early the next morning, leaving the flock with a shepherd, took the supplies, and arrived at the camp as the army was going out to its battle positions, shouting the war cry. Upon reaching the camp, David observed the preparations for battle and simply wanted to see what was happening. He ran to the front line to greet his brothers, leaving his belongings with the baggage keeper. At that moment, Goliath stepped forward with his usual challenge, and David heard it. As David stood among his brothers, he heard a loud voice from across the valley. When the Israelites saw Goliath, they retreated in fear, terrified. David, hearing Goliath's challenge for the first time, saw a giant man covered in armor issuing threats and defying the God of Israel. Enraged by this, David asked the men nearby what would be done for the person who killed this Philistine. The men told him of the great rewards that awaited the victor. David asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Later, David was brought before King Saul and said, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David said, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Saul dressed David in his own tunic and put a coat of armor on him, along with a bronze helmet. David fastened on his sword over the tunic and tried to walk, but he was not used to them. He said, "I cannot go in these because I am not used to them." And he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, and put them in his shepherd's bag. Goliath, with his shield-bearer in front of him, moved closer to David. Seeing David, he despised him, as David was only a young boy with a ruddy and handsome appearance. Goliath said, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" And he cursed David by his gods, saying, "Come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." David replied. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." As Goliath moved closer to attack, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him, reached into his bag, took out a stone, and slung it, striking Goliath on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down Goliath and killed him. David ran and stood over him, took hold of the Philistine's sword, drew it from the sheath, and after killing him, he cut off his head with the sword. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. The men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and the gates of Ekron. Their dead were strewn along the Sharaim road to Gath and Ekron. When the Israelites returned from chasing the Philistines, they plundered their camp. David took the Philistines' head and brought it to Jerusalem. He put the Philistines' weapons in his own tent. The story of David and Goliath teaches a profound lesson about courage and faith. It shows that seemingly impossible challenges can be overcome. Some scholars believe Goliath was a descendant of the Nephilim. Goliath, a resident of Gath, was a member of the giant race known as the Nephilim. However, some believe Goliath was a remnant from the great flood in Noah's time, as the Nephilim were said to be wiped out then. The Bible references the Nephilim about 20 times, such as in Deuteronomy 2 verses 21 to 22, Joshua 12 verse 4, and Deuteronomy 3 verses 11 to 13. The only remaining remnant from the giants was Og, king of Bashan. His bed was made of iron and measured 13 feet long and 6 feet wide. The Israelites took possession of the land, including the regions near the valley of Arnon and the hill country of Gilead. They gave the whole region of Bashan to the Reubenites and Gadites. Og's kingdom was given to the half-tribe of Manasseh. This area was known as the Land of Giants. Many experts believe the Philistines came from a group known as the Anakim. Goliath's prominence as a warrior likely resulted from being born in one of the Anakim's major centers. Some researchers propose that Goliath's family background can be traced through a genetic model known as autosomal dominant inheritance. This genetic model can lead to conditions of excessive growth in individuals. According to the biblical narratives, Goliath was known not only for his enormous size but also for his combat skills and prowess. Goliath had 4 brothers, who also came to attention when the Israelites fought the Philistines again at Gob. In 2 Samuel 21 verse 19, it is recounted that Elhanan, son of Jehoiarib, killed Goliath's brother, whose spear shaft was like a weaver's rod. These giants were not only recognized for their size but also for the enormous weapons they wielded. Among Goliath's brothers were Lami, Saph, and an unnamed 4th giant. This 4th brother was noted for having 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. These features highlighted how different they were from ordinary humans and emphasized their gigantic stature. For the Israelites, these giants posed not just a physical threat but also a spiritual challenge. Goliath's brothers, though not as notorious by name as Goliath himself, each wielded incredibly large and powerful weapons. Their existence depicts the complex reality of people living in the shadow of extraordinary powers while fighting for salvation. David's victory over Goliath with a mere stone and sling caused significant demoralization within the Philistine ranks. The other warriors related to Goliath were also defeated by the Israelites under David's leadership. In 2 Samuel 21 verses 15 to 16, during another battle between the Philistines and Israelites, David grew weary. At this time, Ishbi-benob, a descendant of the giants, aimed to kill David with his new sword, thinking he could take advantage of David's weakness. But forgetting God's power, Ishbi-benob was slain by Abishai, one of David's servants. Abishai, known for force at the critical moment. Even the bravest heroes may feel weak at times, but those who stand firm and do not succumb to fear emerge stronger and more victorious. After narrowly escaping danger, David's followers decided he should no longer risk himself in such battles. They easily convinced him to avoid direct confrontation with Absalom, but David continued to face the Philistines until a resolution was reached, swearing that David's light and pride would not be extinguished. Ishbi-Benob served as a reminder of the ongoing struggle between the Israelites and the Philistines and the risks faced by even the greatest leaders like David. This story also highlights the loyalty and friendship embodied by Abishai's quick action to save King David. Ramah, one of the giants from Gath, faced Zakir, a powerful warrior from Husha and one of David's elite warriors known for his individual skills. According to 1 Chronicles 11, notable warriors like the Hittite Eliam and Goliath's brother Lami fought during the battles. Lami wielded a massive spear, and 1 Chronicles 20 verse 5 recounts that during another battle with the Philistines, Elhanan, son of Jair, killed Lami. The term, weaver's beam, in the Bible refers to the strong, cylindrical wooden pieces that held vertical threads in place at the top of a loom, keeping the warp threads taut and organized for weaving. When the Bible mentions a weaver's beam, it highlights the thickness and sturdiness of the shaft rather than its length, emphasizing the strength of this spear compared to typical ones. These narratives reaffirm the Israelites' faith in God and show that Goliath and his kin were giants defeated by both Anakim and David's men. Giants in the Bible are often depicted as enemies of God's people who are eventually vanquished, serving as a test of faith for believers. Goliath's brothers represent the recurring challenges people face in life, emphasizing lessons of resilience and continuous vigilance. These stories underscore the power of faith and courage, with David's triumphs providing significant lessons for future generations. David's victory over Goliath and the subsequent defeats of his brothers reinforced the power of faith and courage. David's victories were significant not only for himself but also for those who learned to triumph through his teachings and example. Our current successes are valuable not only for the present but also as a legacy for future generations. Genesis 6-1-4 captivates many Bible readers with the mysterious identity of the sons of God and the Nephilim. When humans began to multiply on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans, and had children by them. These were the mighty men of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. This led the Lord to declare that he would wipe mankind from the face of the earth." The presence of giants in the Bible serves as a reminder of how even when people defy God's will, they are ultimately defeated. The defeat of giants conveys a powerful message about God's power and the importance of faith. These stories emphasize the power of faith and courage, providing valuable lessons for future generations. The term, sons of God, consistently refers to angels in the context of the Old Testament. In Job 1 verse 6, the sons of God presented themselves before the Lord, and Satan was also among them. Job 38 verse 7 mentions the morning stars singing together, and all the sons of God shouting for joy. In these instances, the sons of God are angelic beings, including Satan. The usage in Job suggests that Genesis 6 refers to spirits, or angels, interacting with human women. Genesis 6 verses 1-2 contrasts the sons of God with humans, implying these beings were non-human entities. Genesis 6 verse 1 indicates that humans began to multiply, and daughters were born to them, using the Hebrew term for humanity. The context suggests the Nephilim resulted from a union between spiritual and human beings. Genesis 6 verse 4 describes the Nephilim as the mighty men of old. Grace did much more abound. God called Noah to build the ark. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among his peers. His faith showed in his actions. After the flood, he built an altar to the Lord. Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, played crucial roles, and God used them to rebuild humanity. Satan's plan to corrupt the human race's lineage through demonic influence was thwarted by God's choice of Noah. The corrupted gene pool, like a genetic pathogen, could not bear the seed of the promised Messiah. The Savior could not be born of a demon-possessed mother. Satan was on the verge of victory, but God chose to start anew with Noah and his sons, imprisoning the demons to prevent a repeat. God's patience is not infinite. A time will come when He declares enough. Therefore, we must seize the present moment to respond to God's call, as tomorrow is not guaranteed. The flood occurred 120 years after this proclamation. Giants were present on earth both before and after the flood. These Nephilim, the offspring of the sons of God and human daughters, were the mighty men of old. The great wickedness of humanity in Noah's days, with every thought of their hearts being evil, led to God's decision to wipe them out. Jesus said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." The early church understood the sons of God as spiritual beings, a view not commonly accepted by those rejecting supernatural explanations. Genesis 6 verse 6 expresses God's regret for creating humans, reflecting deep sorrow. Despite humanity's failure, God, as a loving creator, decided to save a remnant and start anew. All humans except Noah's immediate family had to be destroyed. God chose Noah to prevent the mingling of human and demonic lines. After the flood, Noah's first act was to offer sacrifices to the Lord. His 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, were key figures in rebuilding humanity. God preserved a remnant, and it seems that after the flood, fallen angels once again performed their duties, though on a much smaller scale than before. When the Israelites reported seeing giants in Canaan, it is more likely they saw very tall people and mistakenly thought they were Nephilim out of fear. There is a possibility that demons again formed unions with human women, producing more Nephilim, or that Nephilim traits persisted through some genetic inheritance. The giants in Canaan, regardless of their origin, were ultimately descendants of Noah and were defeated by the Israelites. In addition to defeating these giants, the Israelites remembered the great flood during their history, when only 8 righteous individuals, untainted by the sins of heavenly beings, were preserved. Disturbing angels were cast out. Let us pray, dear God, grant us understanding and enlightenment through the Scriptures. As we explore your teachings, give us clarity of mind and purity of heart to navigate life's complexities and find comfort in your wisdom. Help us approach your words with humility and open minds to grasp their profound meanings. May your scriptures be a beacon of light in our lives, illuminating the path of righteousness and guiding us. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay updated on new content. With your support, we will continue to grow and share more inspiring stories.